What's up, my fishing addicts? You know what today is? It's Tacklebox Tuesday. Alright, this one is brought to you by viewer demand. Like I said, you want to see something? I'll do it. Alright, let's see. It is by Sandra. Lucky lady Sandra. She wanted to know what are the best artificial lures, or at least bare minimum, that you need for saltwater fishing. And in my personal opinion, you should always have a different array, or a arsenal, if you will. Just have a couple different things to mix it up, okay? Whether you're going for flounder, for specks, for reds, it doesn't matter. You can get pretty much anything on an artificial as long as you're using it the right way and you're using the right one in the right conditions. Okay, so first and foremost, I will tell you that the paddle tail soft plastic would probably be my number one go-to artificial lure. It's soft, creates a you can put a jig head on it, so that way you can control the depth by the weight of the jig head. The paddle tail, a good 4-incher will do you great, because that tail will go ahead, get it stirring in the water. It'll provoke the fish's natural predatory instinct and cause it to go ahead and go for that fish. The next one, which I will show you, will be definitely, which is versatile in both fresh and saltwater, is the spoon. Both silver or gold spoons. And I say that for one of two reasons. But before I go in with the on the spoons, I want to kind of go back and talk about the paddle tail soft plastic. Okay, so definitely the number one color that you want to choose is going to be the bone white, whether it's paddle tail soft plastic, whether it's a Topwater Popper, a twitch bait, jerk bait, diving bait, whatever, suspended. Always at least have one bone white. A lot of times you'll also see those jigs, or the crankbaits with the red, the old school. It looks kind of like a hot dog, about like this big. It's almost all white, but that has a red front with the two little eyes. The reason why I say bone white is because, one, it never fails. Two, you got to remember that nearly every fish has a white underside, or a silver, or a lighter colored underside. Okay, so what that bone white does is it catches their eye, and no matter which condition it's in, and that predator thinks it's the belly of the fish, so that way, in their predatory instinct, they know that the fish aren't looking down like this, they're swimming up above. So that is going to activate their predatory instinct to where they're going to want to go and get it. Also, one thing I found very in particular that works pretty well is the Berkeley Gulp. This is the chartreuse pepper ripple mullet. Okay, so it's these are great because they're a good size, and they're also scented, which definitely is a helper. And if you look real close, you can see these little ribs on top of the paddle tail. What that does is that go ahead and stirs up the water and creates a vibration that's very similar to a natural swimming fish. The other one, which a buddy of mine turned me on to, which have actually worked out really well, are these. I'm going to pop it open so you can see it. The brand is called Chicken Boy. They're also soft plastics. This is a Chicken Boy. Top of it looks like a looks like a shrimp. Bottom also works double. So kind of like 2-in-1. Also, yep, definitely scented. So, no endorsements, no sponsors, but you can find them here, chickenboylures.com. Work great. One of the other reasons why I like these is because you can tell the top looks like a shrimp, and you gotta remember, pretty much everything in the ocean will eat shrimp. Any carnivorous species will eat shrimp. I've seen little baby shad this big. I'm picking them up, I'm throwing my sabiki out there, not getting hits, but I put a little hunk of shrimp on there, and I'm pulling up shad. And all the fish love shad, always. So these are great. Berkeley Gulp, they also make shrimp, so they're also scented. That's a big plus. So those are, but definitely stick with like the paddle tails. It doesn't have to be this color, but it does stand out. One thing you're going to remember is when you're using soft plastics, or any lure in particular, but more so the soft plastics, would be the conditions that you're fishing in. So let's say you're fishing in very clear water, okay? You want a lighter color to go ahead and match that, all right? So, you know, just kind of remember the same thing with the spoons coming up next. All right, so you're in dark, murky water, you want to use a darker color bait. Got to remember, this goes along the same lines as using real, natural bait. If, let's say, you know, ladyfish is a great bait. Bloody, oily, you know, get a lot of scent out there, especially as cut bait. Especially you want to get sharks and reds. Redfish candy, I'll tell you what. However, you go fishing somewhere where there's not ladyfish around, as good as that may be, probably not going to get nearly as many bites as if you would if there's a lot of shad or mullet around. So you want to definitely make sure to mimic what's natural in the area, okay? Now let's go ahead and get into spoons. Back to spoons. Okay, so you have different types of spoons. You got your hammered ones, which are long and long oval shape, but have like kind of a, looks like you hit it with a hammer at the flattened tip. That just helps it propel. But you can see right here, I always go with a gold or a silver spoon. Not like my earrings, but also have one on each. Just remember, silver, like Patron or gin, something clear, silver shiny, that goes for clear water. The clearer the water, the better this will work. Darker water, the gold will work. But then again, I've seen gold work everywhere because it's still going to give off a shine off the light no matter what. But like I said, make sure you want to keep your bait or your lures, whatever, as close to the natural species in the area that are the natural bait fish, because those fish can tell if something's off. You know, they're not going to be like, oh well, this looks good. Then again, you know, sometimes fish will just chomp on something, which I find is really weird because it doesn't even look like anything in their ecosystem that they would want to eat, but they'll bite it. Especially like barracuda, if it shines, they'll go for it. But make sure you have your, always keep a set of spoons, because these are great. They got some weight on them. Great for casting, but prepare for get a sore shoulder, because you can't let them sink. You know, you can either reel it slow or fast reels or quick flicks, so it'll pop up, and then it'll sink, flutter down, up, down, up, down. All right, we got the spoons out of the way. Let's move on to our next category. As I said earlier, white will always get you, will be your best bet for anything, because it represents the underbelly of a fish. So that white or that shine will definitely help you. Your next best thing would be the white bucktail. Okay, don't know what it is about these bucktails, but it works. Because once it gets wet, you know, it'll kind of give that little fish tail like appearance. And if you really want to double up, I got this little nifty one. It's got a spoon on it, so I don't need a jig head for this, so I can go ahead and kind of like doubles it up, right? So this has got a spoon. You can see the density, the thickness, so this way it'll cut through the water easier. I think this is about 20 grams. Doesn't say it on there, but feels like it's about 20 grams. But without even the spoon, this white bucktail will be definitely a big hitter. Okay, and then you're combining two together, definitely gonna get something's attention out there. You also got like little white stuck together. Here's another small white bucktail. It's still on the clasp that my son didn't take away. Alright, one of my favorites though, this has worked for me in both salt and freshwater, is this little crankbait or diving lure. You can see there's got the lip on the front. This is a Rapala lure, okay? So, not endorsed, not sponsored. But on the reels, I've caught largemouth bass with this. I've caught catfish in freshwater. I've caught, let's see, Spanish mackerel. I've caught speckled trout. I've even caught some flounder on this. So this is actually, it's not the top of my list, but it's definitely very, very versatile. It's probably midway because I've used it in both salt and freshwater. Plus having the treble hooks definitely helps out a lot with the striking, because being it is a hard bait, when they bite the hard baits, they don't always go back for seconds. That's why the soft plastics are more beneficial, is because they bite down on it, it has that soft feel, so they'll go back for it. But the treble hooks will also help out big time. Another one that's also very versatile for both salt and freshwater is you have your suspended rig shad. Just remember, there's a little black dot on it, it's shad. This is a nice little twitch bait. It has the ring at the top, so you can let it go down, and the weight is actually in the bottom. There's more weight actually to the back of the fish, so that way it'll still swim. And like I said, it's got the treble hooks on it. Here is another shad suspension one. This is great, love this one. Blue on top, really resembles a something in their ecosystem that they would see. So I've gotten hits on this for both sides, fresh and saltwater, like with striped bass and stuff like that. Here is another Rapala lure, another crankbait or diving bait, depending on whatever you call it. Very similar to the one I showed you earlier. They both have that black on the top, both silver in color. This one does have a smaller lip though, so it won't dive as deep. Both of them work very well. I just wanted to show you that one. But let's move on to another great one. This will get you some definite action. Just gotta make sure you're in the right place at the right time. Use this in the right environment. This will definitely be good for some speckled trout. Anything with good, nice pointy nose and sharp teeth. And that is your Topwater Popper. This particularly, I wouldn't use in saltwater. This is the one that I have on hand that I don't have to dig out. I've been mainly using natural baits a lot lately, just because of the type of species I'm going after. However, what I would do is with the Topwater lure or the popper is that one that I told you about before. You can just Google bone white Topwater lure or popper, and you'll find it. It'll be the one with the red head, the eye, and the rest of the body's white with two treble hooks on it. If you've been fishing for more than a day, I'm pretty sure you've seen it. But in good calm conditions where there's not a lot of waves or ripple, Definitely uses top water. Just give it a couple little flicks, and it mimics a fish that's kind of wounded or woozy, in distress. Activates those predatory instincts. They see a fish in distress, it's an easy meal. So that's another thing that you should definitely remember. Is you definitely want to remember the easy meal theory. Okay, so as I'm packing this little bad boy up, you got to remember, and I told this, I actually told a lot of people this whenever I'm going like somewhere that's crowded, like the pier, or or I'll see some people that are relatively new to fishing. I've also explained this to my son too, because he was wondering, man, Dad, how are you catching these big reds? You only got that little chunk of mullet. I mean, no joke. I used maybe a cut piece of mullet, like right out of the middle, just the meaty part, that big, size 18-aught hook, hooked it through, and I was catching them more than he was catching, and he had like almost a whole mullet cut in half, so scents everywhere, blood's everywhere. You gotta remember, fish do not have a refrigerator, they do not have a microwave, they do not have a pantry where they can just go and get whatever food they want, okay? Everyday life is a struggle. So, if they see a big bait in the water, yeah, it might look like a good meal, depending on the fish. Sharks, they don't give a crap. They'll go for anything. Flounder, big meals are good for flounder because they're lazy fish. So you can use those good 4-inch or even sometimes 6-inch paddle tails, because finger mullet or what are they called? The mud minnows. Those are like the flounder food of choice. So, but for the rest of the species, you got to remember, like I said, easy meals compared to something that they might have to fight with or get injured. I mean, personally, if I see food there compared to food that I have to walk upstairs for, I'm going to go for the food here. It's just basic psychology 101. But yeah, so make sure you're not overdoing it. Sometimes you might want to just downgrade your tackle a little bit. Okay, so that being said, let's move on to our next one. So the poppers, the what are they called? Flukes. Flukes work great. Give me 1 second. I thought I had it, and I'll grab one. Alright, Fishin-atics, so we are on to the very last part of this video, which is going to be jigs and jig heads. I know some of you are thinking, well, gee, you just said paddle tail. Yes, that is a type of jig. However, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth. Don't worry, I'm not going to take forever like the get hooked up, okay? But there is a couple things that I do want to point out. So let's check it out. Here's my box. Now, what I want you guys to look at is, I know it's kind of a mixed up box, but I have it an organized mess the way I want it. So what I want to show you is a couple things. Let's start at the top. What do you notice that stands out? Let me just give you a hint. That's right, different color jig heads. Each one of these is a different color, except these two yellow. This is a 1/8, and these bigger ones are a 1/4 ounce. This one up here is a 1/4 ounce. So this way, you know what, you might be getting strikes. Switch up the jig head, and these are 1/4 ounce over here. And then I got these little itty bitty guys. Okay, it's stuck in my finger. Ow, ow, ow. These little itty bitty guys. Good for catching bait. Just mimics little squid. Okay, so, definitely obviously you want to keep a different variety of weights on your jig head, just depending on current and how far along you want to be using that to twitch or crank or alter your speed, and where you want it to be in the water column. Now, what else do you notice? there's something in this area. Think about it. What do all these have in common? No, not the tails. I said it earlier. They all got these little ribs, okay? All of them. Except, of course, little squids. Okay, so you can tell the difference if I'm going to use this color. I'm going to use this one in lighter colored water. If I'm going to try and use the same color to mimic the fish, I'm going to use this in darker colored water. And vice versa. Okay, so this will stand out lighter colored water, or nice, and this yellow will be burning brighter in a darker colored water. Pretty self-explanatory. These are actually the Slam Shady lures. I have not gotten a chance to use them yet. I've been doing a lot of fishing for the reds that have been coming in, and a lot of sharks lately, because sharks put up a great fight. However, there is one thing about the jig heads and rigging up these that I'm going to show you. It'll be a super helper, and trust me, you will definitely enjoy it. Alright, so let's check that out. Okay, so like I just said with the jigs and jig heads, what I want you to pay attention to is this. Okay, so you all know how to hook up a jig head, right? You take it, you match it up, because you can see the lead here, and this portion helps keep the jig on. So what you do is you put that in front of that, so that way the nose is flush and you get it straight, so that way you know where the hook should come out. That being said, so what I'm going to do is flip it around to the other side, boop, boop, and right here, so you see where the bend should be. Okay, so where the bend should be, that's actually where the hook should start to come out at. That way you get a good hook set. So, like so. Make sure it is matched up. Slide it in. And so right there, you see that? Right once you get to the arch of the hook is when that should start popping out. And that way you can go ahead, overlap it. Give me a second here. Sorry, this jig head is a little wide for this lure. Okay, so it's popping. I'm trying to make it nice and pretty for you guys. So sometimes you take it, push it up there, and then give it a little pull back, push it all the way up, pull it back so it's nice and flush. So you see how that's coming out. Okay, that way it keeps the body straight. And remember, fish like to do what to their prey? Said it earlier, easy meal, so they like to disable it. So that's why you want to have the hook a little bit further back, right at the base of the tail. Because if you ever watch Nat Geo or something like that, you'll notice they go, sharks, anything, they're either going to suck it up or they're going to hit it, disable it, then go back for it. Okay, so here's the trick. This is gonna get you a lot more fish that are gonna stay on, because my arch enemy is the J hook. And if you all watched Get Hooked Up, the J hook is, it's the oldest type of hook imaginable. However, you will definitely, it is also the one that does the most damage to fish when they gut it. And it also has the most hook releases, okay? Because once you get that circle hook, that ain't coming out unless it's ripped out. These J hooks are the ones that are going to get spit out the most. So what you do is you get your handy dandy pliers and you take your jig head, or your hook, sorry, and you bend it just a tad. Okay. Now, see that? It's not quite bent in. So what I can do is I can take it a little more. There we go. Ooh, I just rubbed the scent on me. Not getting any day smelling like that. But now here, this is what I want to show you. See, the point is still parallel to the fish's body, or the jig's body. However, you have increased the arch of the hook, so this way, just like the collet hook, that's the one that it has or the circle hook, or some of the octopus hooks, those are great. So basically, you're bending the hook a little more. Don't offset it. It's not, unless you know it's legal in your state. Most states, offset hooks are not legal, just simply because, like I said, they do a lot of damage to the fish. Alright, but here you go. And then this is what it should look like, the end result. And you might be saying, why didn't you do that in the beginning? Well, because if I was to try and put this hook through that long jig, it would be, instead of coming out here, the bend, it would be coming out like right here. And it wouldn't be doing me any good because the hook would be all the way to the front. So that's why I do it after. Alrighty. Let's move on. Okay, so here's my other saltwater lure box, like I showed you before with the spoons. However, did a little bit of reorganizing. Don't mind the Jeff Bezos rocket lures. I think that's a better term. So yeah, like Jeff Bezos, for you kids watching, it's the richest guy. It's the guy that owns Amazon. He built his own rocket, and those what those look like. Okay, so remember what I said earlier, variety. And these are the ones that I use. Yes, they might be considered jigs just because they do have a weight on them with a hook. However, I use these, or these little voodoo shrimp. They got a little bit of weight to them. If you look real close, you can see the little bit extra thickness in there. They just coated the top portion, or the, if you remember my other video, to get hooked up. Do you remember what that's called? The part of the hook? The shank. Alright, that's right, good job. You got it. So these are the suspension lures. They kind of sit there and you play with it. And here's another one, Big Bertha. Alright. This does work out. As you can see, it's been used more than once. And got some spoons over there, some rusty ones. I know I need to clean them up. I got a little, my buddy from SpongeBob, Squidward here. It's always good to have. I know a lot of people will use this for trolling, which I do as well. But it's also good if you are surf fishing, because you got to remember there are a lot of things in the ocean or the Gulf or the bay or whatever body of salt water that you're fishing in that eat squid. And that's exactly why I keep these major three things together, because 9 times out of 10, any predatory fish or carnivorous fish is going to eat either shrimp, squid, or shad. I would really hate to be the bottom of the barrel in this species list. Alrighty, well, that's enough of my yakking. You can see what it is and see the variety, different colors, different sizes. That's the key. Just like I said earlier, you may not want Big Bertha over here because, well, sheephead ain't gonna buy that, but I'll tell you what, they can definitely get their mouths around that. And this actually originally, funny story, was a tandem lure that the ladyfish were just absolutely tearing up. They were hitting this more than they were hitting the live shrimp. Junior was pulling in 2 at a time. I wish I would have got video of that, but that was before we started the channel. And actually, caveat, this is a cheaper, maybe not, let me not say cheaper, but more cost effective. These came in, like I said, they came in a tandem lure, but when these are in the water, I'll tell you what, these look freaking lifelike. And the designer, whoever they are, I'll probably just name drop them in another video just because they did such a great job. The color on this really, really matches up to a actual shrimp that we get down here, and to be honest with you, it works a lot. Alrighty, let's talk to future me, the one that turns the camera around. Alright, so we have just checked out those jigs and jig heads, so keep in mind, let's just go do a real quick recap. You got your paddle tails. As you notice that each one of my jigs or my soft plastics, they all have the paddle tail and that little ribs along the side. Because remember that, like I showed you with the gulp bag, and like I showed you with these, as you can look real close, just like I showed you before, they all have those ridges in them. So remember those. If you're going to get some soft plastics, make sure it's a paddle tail, make sure it has the ridges, because that's what's going to stir up the water and create that vibration that mimics the fish. And then we have our spoons. Those are the 2 you cannot fail, and those are definitely top 2 must-haves. Definitely, if you can't have anything, the bone white paddle tail, and always have a silver and gold spoon depending on water clarity. And then we got our crankbaits. You have your suspended twitches. You have everything else that we went over, okay? The Rapalas, those diving crankbaits, the shad ones. And so just make sure you keep these basic things in mind. Have options. So as you saw mine, I got a couple different colors. Doesn't cost that much. You can actually get it into a pack where it has a variety of colors, or you can buy them separately. Sometimes I'll do one of each. It doesn't really always matter to me as long as they meet the criteria that I'm looking for. Besides that, really, that pretty much wraps it up. Okay, so make sure you have the top 2, and if you're going to go with any other hard baits, like the twitches or suspension lures or crankbaits, something like that, please ensure that they do have the treble hook, because remember, those fish aren't always going to strike twice. Once it's a hard, they bite into it and it's hard, unless it's one of those alpha, or what are they called? I can't think of the name. But the top predators in the food chain, a lot of times they will go back, like barracudas, the sharks, stuff like that. The more teeth, the more bites. Just keep thinking of it that way. So make sure you got those treble hooks on there. That way, in case you hit it, they hit it twice, they hit it once. That way you can go ahead and get hooked up. And make sure they have the dual treble hooks, because sometimes they will, they're going to go and try and do the first thing, disable, and enjoy. Okay? And besides that, remember the hook bend with the soft plastics. Keep your options open. Final thing, remember to use your brain, use your eyes, and think about water clarity. Okay? And the last thing that I did forget to go off of was, when you are using soft plastics, when you're using crankbaits especially, or let's say even the suspension ones, you don't have to worry about it with the Topwater Lures or the poppers or nothing like that. But when you are fishing a new area, or an area that's you're not quite sure about, that you have, unless you can see through it or have fished there for a while, be cautious. Okay, use those. If you're going to use the crankbaits, use the short-lipped ones, because you're not always certain of what kind of structure is in there. And if you're going to use the soft plastics, you guys know how to make it a weedless lure. Just bend the hook all the way up and kind of flip it up there. Having the right type of hooks always helps. So it's definitely not going to be something you use with a jig head, because you can only bend it so much before it's not going to work anymore. All right, I hope you found this interesting and informative. I really hope you guys use these tools that I'm sharing with you. This works for me. I'm not a professional by any means. I've just been doing this a while. I don't claim to know everything. I never will claim to know everything, because I'm always learning as well. The only thing I do is I make sure to watch and learn. And I want to throw out a big shout out to my girl Sandy. You rock. Thank you for this great idea for the video. And I wasn't going to claim credit for this, even though we did do it. Junior has done it himself. But Sandy, you reminded me, the second most important thing you can keep in your tackle box, guess what it is? Take a second. Take a second. Did you guess a pen and paper? No, you didn't. Keep a fishing diary, okay? Keep a fishing diary of where you fished, what you caught, what you used when you caught it, okay? That is going to be a super help. I wish I had the, we have one of those little memo notebooks things. Junior actually drew a picture of the Texas City dike. Not to scale, but it's pretty good. And he's put little fishes and whatnot, labeled it, you know, where we caught sharks, where we caught reds, where we caught specks, where we caught stingrays and stuff like that. So keep that fishing diary, because that'll help you lighten your load, so you're not going to have to take everything in your tackle box. Whereas you can just do like I do. You saw what I have and how easy it is to take it. Like sometimes I'll take my tackle box, if I'm going somewhere where I know something's going to use, I'm going to use something, I'll just take the small one instead of taking the whole, lugging the whole tackle box around. If I know it works, where I'm fishing, that's all I need. Or maybe a spare or two in case I get hung up, or you know, a big fish busts me off, which I really hope it does, as long as I'm not keeping it. All right. Until the next time, make sure you drop a like, for sure. Share it with your people. Thank you for subscribing, and please get hooked up. But make sure you always drop those comments, and I want to do whatever I can to help you guys. And feel free, comment on something that if I didn't cover it, throw it out there, because somebody somewhere might be afraid to ask that question. All right, or give that comment, something like that, because this is what I do. It just works for me. I mean, you could go anywhere and things work differently. So be a great angler, be a great angler buddy, help out your people, get a little bit of fishing knowledge here and there. All right. In the meantime, y'all know the drill. Keep them lines tight and rods bent.